Picture this. You're laying on the ground, about to fall asleep, but you're forcing yourself to stay up because if you close your eyes before everyone else, you know that when you wake up, you might have a missing finger. Sounds horrible, right? Well, actually, somehow, these were the best nights ever because what I'm describing is childhood sleepovers. If there's one thing I miss about being a kid, it's definitely sleepovers. And not having butt hair. Mostly sleepovers though. Spending the night with your friends, staying up late, pulling pranks, it couldn't get any better than this. But here's the interesting thing about sleepovers. It didn't matter whose house it was or what grade you were in, every single sleepover had the exact same type of people. It's like everyone played a specific role at the sleepover, starting with the kid who treats your house like it's his own. There's always one friend in every group who simply does not recognize that he is a guest. Because when you walk into someone's house, you're supposed to behave like a visitor. You knock on the front door before entering, you say hello to the parents, you ask for permission before getting something out of the fridge. But unfortunately, the person I'm describing right now does not do any of that. He walks through your front door and immediately transitions into full homeowner mode. First thing they do is go straight for the kitchen. You know exactly what they're doing in there too. Eating anything they can find. It doesn't stop at food either. They will watch whatever they want on your TV without asking. They'll adjust the thermostat if they're hot. And I'm not just assuming that this is the truth. I know it is because my friend Mikey is this exact person. You see, Mikey was an interesting character. Everyone loved him, but at the same time, with some of the things he'd do, you'd ask yourself, is Mikey like all there in the head? Because this is how Mikey would operate at every sleepover, or even just when he was coming over to hang out in general. He would get to my front door, and instead of texting that he's out front or ringing the doorbell, he had a different way of announcing he was here. Because my house had a lock code on our front door, and at some point, which I still don't know when, he figured the code out. But I had no idea he knew the code, and the rest of my family definitely didn't know this. So one day, he was supposed to come over for a sleepover, but I told him to come around 5 p.m. because I wouldn't be home till then. Now this sounds simple enough, but not for Mikey, because at around 3 p.m. on this day, my dad was home alone and he was working in his office. But then he hears a noise come from the kitchen. He thinks to himself, that's pretty odd because I'm home alone. I know it can't be Tyler because he's at baseball practice, which could mean only one thing. Someone is trying to break into the house right now. So what do you do in that situation? You grab something to defend yourself. So my dad gets the katana he keeps in his office as decoration and occasionally has to use for self-defense, and he creeps into the kitchen. In his mind, he's thinking,
I'm about to absolutely whack this person that's breaking into my house.
And finally, he gets to the kitchen and sees the fridge door is open with someone clearly standing behind it. So like the spy my dad thinks he is, he quickly slams the fridge door shut and starts to swing the katana. But that's the moment he realizes this is not someone trying to rob the place. No, it's just Mikey, innocent old Mikey. And right before he's about to turn Mikey into an amputee, he stops his swing. Mikey screams because, well, he almost got sliced by a katana, and then they both start to process what just happened. Then comes the questions. My dad says,
Mikey, what are you doing in my house? Did Tyler get home already?
And Mikey says,
oh no, I just let myself in.
How?
I put the code to the door in.
Who told you the code?
No one.
My dad couldn't even ask any more questions because he didn't have time to deal with this nonsense since he had to get back to work. So after this happened, you would think Mikey either A, left my house and waited till I got there to come back, or B, just sat somewhere in my house like a good boy and tried to be as respectful as possible. Well, neither of those options are correct because right after this, Mikey turns my PlayStation on and starts playing Fortnite on it. He clearly did not learn his lesson, but that's just Mikey. Everyone knows someone like this. They make you really frustrated, but you still love them because you're convinced they just don't know any better because once again, they're probably not all there in the head. Now, my dad was really mad in this moment, but at the end of the day, he still loved Mikey. But you know who he didn't love? The next type of person I'm about to tell you. Let's see if you can guess who I'm describing. You are the host of a sleepover. You're managing a lot of moving parts, trying to make sure everyone is happy, has a place to sleep, but most importantly, you're making sure that you guys aren't doing anything that would cause a disturbance to your parents. Because the last thing you want to happen is your parents telling everyone they have to leave the house because they were being too annoying. But there is one specific friend on that guest list who makes you very scared in this scenario. Not because something dramatic is gonna happen, just because the person that's about to walk into your house can only communicate at one volume. And that volume is way too loud when you're in a house where other people are trying to sleep. I'm talking about the friend who wakes everyone up at the sleepover. The one who's always way too loud. It's kind of similar to the other friend I just mentioned because they both don't realize they're doing something wrong. They've never heard of an indoor voice. I was playing video games with this exact type of person one night. It was late, my parents were in bed, the house was in that fragile state where everyone who lived there was asleep, and the only sounds in the house were us playing video games. It was just me and him awake. But then something tragic happened. He lost in the game we were playing, and he was not a person who took losing well. So the moment he realizes he lost, you know what he does? I'll just show you. Come on. Damn! Dang it, dude, no! Now what happened next is very impressive because my dad is a heavy sleeper. I need you to understand this fully before I finish the story. I have personally witnessed this man sleep through any scenario you can imagine. Thunderstorms, people shoving him. I wouldn't be surprised if he slept through his own birth. Getting my dad to wake up during the night is just about impossible. At least we used to think it was, because after rage quitting the game, from underneath the door, I saw a light flick on. And then I heard it, footsteps. And every member of your family has very distinct footsteps. You know who's coming just based off how it sounds. And when I heard those footsteps, I knew that was my dad. I was terrified because, once again, waking my dad up during his beauty sleep was not a good idea. And you just heard the footsteps getting closer and closer until the door to my room slowly opens and it's my dad standing there. You can only see a silhouette because it was dark in my room, but he looks directly at my friend and in a very stern voice, he goes,
Evan, if you wake me up one more time tonight, you're sleeping in the backyard!
And then he turned around and walked out. Evan sat there for a moment, processing what just happened, and then he leaned over to me and whispered,
He wouldn't actually do that, right?
And I said, no, he absolutely will. I didn't know if my dad was bluffing or not, but I just wanted to get him to stop screaming, so I went along with it. He did stop screaming that night. Matter of fact, he got so scared of my dad waking up again that he basically turned into the next type of person every sleepover has. Nobody ever acknowledges that this next person even exists. They're at every sleepover, but literally no one talks about it. There's always one friend who shows up, walks through the front door, and from that moment forward, no one even realizes they're there. Yeah, they're physically there, but for some reason, they're just outcasted from the rest of the group. This can happen because of two reasons. Either this person is the friend that's a part of the group, but basically the least liked one, or they just never speak. Unfortunately, I have suffered from being this person a couple times throughout my life because there were many days growing up where I was in like 2 or 3 friend groups, but I was never a core member of any of them. They'd have group chats without me, hang out without me, and it was because I wasn't one of the core members. So one time, I overheard my friends talking about a sleepover, and I had nothing to do that day, so I pretty much invited myself. I asked them if I could go, and they said yes. They didn't seem sad to say yes, but they also definitely didn't seem happy. But when I get to that sleepover this night, my friend opens the door for me to come inside, and he says, "What's up?" But I'm pretty sure that was literally the last word that was said to me that night. My other friends were getting food from the kitchen, but I was too nervous to ask if I could do that because I didn't feel like I was a part of the group enough to, so I didn't even eat. And when everyone started falling asleep, I was just there lying on the carpet with my friend's dog's chew toy being the only thing I could find to use as a blanket. This was the day I realized if you're not invited to something, don't ask to go. It will be much less painful than going somewhere you're not wanted. Trust me. Now this is where the video gets very serious. You need to pay very close attention to what I'm about to say next, because under no circumstance can you be this next type of person at a sleepover. If you are, don't say I didn't warn you, because there is an unspoken rule at every sleepover that nobody has to explain, because every single person already understands it. You learn it at your first sleepover and it never leaves you. The rule is simply this: no matter how late it is, no matter how tired you are, you cannot be the first person to fall asleep. You have to do everything in your power to make sure of this, because falling asleep first doesn't just mean all the fun at the sleepover ends. No, it's actually the opposite. Falling asleep first is right when the party starts. The moment that first person closes their eyes, the energy in the room changes. Suddenly, everyone becomes ninjas, being as quiet as possible, all thinking the exact same thing. It's time to mess with our friend. Everyone knows this, which is why the fight to stay awake is so intense. You will see someone who has clearly been half asleep for about 20 minutes suddenly bounce up and say something random just to prove they're still conscious. My friend once brought a spray water bottle with him that he would splash in his face anytime his eyes started to shut. And the moment it finally happens, the moment someone actually falls asleep, it's go time. Now, I've already told you guys many of the psychotic experiences I've had with falling asleep first at a sleepover. But have you ever actually wondered who made falling asleep first so scary originally? Well, that would be the prankster. The one who shows up with one mission in mind, which is to absolutely ruin the night of whoever falls asleep first. They've got ideas for how to punish their friends that you couldn't even imagine. And there's something very important to understand about the prankster. You can either join them and become part of whatever is about to happen, or fight against them and probably become the next person to be terrorized. There's no middle ground. If you are not clearly in, you are automatically the target. And every single person at every single sleepover makes the exact same decision. They're all in. No one may admit it, but but this is the reason everyone goes to sleepovers in the first place. It's not about playing video games, flirting with people from school over text. No, it's about making sure the person who falls asleep first has a night they will never forget. As you all know, I have real personal history with this role because I've been on both sides of it with full commitment. I've been the prankster and I've been the victim. But what being the victim made me realize is that the prankster is evil. And I can confidently say what I did one night to my friend when they fell asleep first was definitely evil. Because there was a night where I was hosting a sleepover. By the way, I never recommend being the host. It's horrible. But anyways, since it was my sleepover, I was basically also the person who coordinated what was gonna happen to whoever fell asleep first. I had been thinking about this for a while. I had a whole plan set up. So when our first friend fell asleep that night, I knew it was time. You'll understand the plan as I tell you what we did. So my friend's phone was right there next to him, and this was during the time where everyone had iPhones, you used your fingerprint to unlock. So this is where the stealth mission started. Step 1, unlock his phone using his thumb without waking him up. So like a surgeon operating on a patient, we very deliberately lifted his hand, pressed his thumb to the sensor, and waited for it to unlock. And it did. And he didn't move a muscle. No sign of waking up. Now you might be wondering why I wanted to unlock his phone. Maybe to change his wallpaper to something funny, send a weird text to someone, but I had a different idea. And I'm gonna be honest, if someone did to me what I did to my friend that night, we wouldn't be friends anymore. But we went to his camera, took photos of him sleeping, but we angled it so that he looked less like someone who was sleeping and more like someone who was just sitting there with their eyes closed, posing for the picture. Kind of like this. And what did we do next? Maybe send it to his crush? No, way worse. We opened up Instagram on his phone, clicked on that picture we took, wrote a caption, then posted it. Now remember when I said we took the picture to make him look like this? Well, because of that, we made the caption on this post 3 words. And those words read, "Who want me?" We posted it to his Instagram, put the phone back exactly where it was, and later that night, we went to sleep like nothing happened. Now, one thing you must understand about this friend is that he likes to play the nonchalant gimmick online. He literally had 0 posts on his Instagram, and if he were to finally post something, no one would expect it to be this. Our friend woke up the next morning to more notifications than he had ever seen on his phone. People he knew, people he barely knew, his family, all texting him. We woke up before him because we wanted to see his reaction. And when he checks his phone for the first time that morning, he starts to look more and more confused. Then he opens up Instagram and finally sees it. The beautiful debut photo on his page. He looked at the photo, he read the caption, then he looked at us. He could see the dumb smirks on our face and he knew exactly what must have happened last night. So how did he react? Let's just say he did not find it nearly as funny as we did, which is fair, but what I still think about was his response. He didn't just delete the post and move on, he adapted. From that sleepover forward, every single time we would have a sleepover together, before he went to sleep, he'd pull out tape and wrap both of his thumbs like he was preparing for a sporting event. That way, in case anyone tried using his thumb, he'd wake up after feeling tape getting pulled off of his finger. I was impressed, but a few years later, facial recognition came out and we no longer needed his thumbs to open his phone. So of course, we did the same thing to him again. No, I'm just kidding. We didn't do that, but we definitely could have. Unfortunately though, if you do bad things, sometimes bad things will happen back to you. Because while I have been the prankster at many sleepovers, I have also been the next category of person we have to talk about, the victim. Any of these other types of people at sleepovers are fine. Sure, some are better than others, but none of them are horrible, except for being the victim. That one is straight up torture. And there is one particular sleepover where I fell asleep first and something happened that I will never forget. I don't know how I've never told this story before because it's a memorable one. But before I tell you what happened, I need you to understand I was having the best sleep of my life when this was happening. I was even in a dream where I felt like I was in a jacuzzi and it felt amazing. But in this dream, because I was in warm water and I started to feel the need to pee, I peed in the jacuzzi and it was all going perfectly fine until I woke up and realized I'm not actually in a jacuzzi. But when I woke up, the warm feeling did not stop. I was still feeling the peeing sensation. I opened my eyes only to see that my friends, while I was unconscious and trusting them, placed my hand in a bowl of warm water. I didn't know this at the time, but apparently when you put someone's hand in warm water while they're sleeping, often it will get them to pee in their sleep. Sounds funny, right? Well, the part I was super confused about was why would my friend want to do this? Because while yes, I ended up peeing my pants, haha funny, I did it while sleeping on my friend's couch. This was already a bad situation on its own, but the couch added a whole nother problem because this was his parents' couch and there was now a pee stain on it. So all of us together now had to figure out what to do because you could literally see and smell the pee. We couldn't tell the parents what actually happened. There was just no version of that conversation that would sound not insane. So we looked around the room at the options available to us and then we saw the dog. The poor poor, innocent dog. And that puppy quickly became our only way out of this situation. So the next morning, when my friend's parents came out of their room, my friend told his mom that the dog peed on the couch. His mom thought that was incredibly weird, considering the good boy had never done that before. But it made more sense than a human peeing on it, so she believed it. We will never forget your sacrifice, Milo. Now, if you had to go through the things I've gone through at sleepovers, you would probably become this next type of person. The one who makes everyone furious, because I'm talking about the person who always leaves the sleepover early. They're nearly impossible to get to come in the first place. It takes days of begging them in the group chat for them to clear up their Saturday instead of doing,
Oh yeah, nothing.
this is how it goes with this friend. They get there for the beginning of the night and things will seem fine. But at some point, literally out of nowhere, they'll go quiet. You can watch it happening if you're paying attention. They reach for their phone, send a quick text, and within 10 minutes, there's a car outside. And the excuses for why they had to leave are never real excuses. They're vague enough that you can't argue against them, but specific enough that you know they were made up 15 minutes ago. Their stomach hurts, their fish drowned and they need to go bury it. And you cannot argue with their stomach hurting. What are you gonna say? Show me your insides to prove it? Last time I said that to someone, I got a restraining order. But even if you could prove that they were lying, if they don't want to be there, it's just gonna kill the vibe if they stay anyway. So some of the people that are like this would just take matters into their own hands, which means when they want to leave, they just do it without telling anyone. At some point during the night, you and your friends look around and realize Greg is gone. And you're thinking, did he pass away? Did my dog eat him? But then you call him to see if he's alive and he answers. So you say,
Bro, where did you go?
and he just answers with,
Oh, I left an hour ago.
so you ask why, and he tells you he wanted to sleep in his own bed. I respect when they do this more than just making up a fake excuse. At least this is valid. I understand that you would rather sleep in the comfort of your own home rather than on a living room floor with a pizza box as your blanket. But at every sleepover, there comes a time where the night is winding down and everyone is ready to go to bed for real this time. But the main issue at sleepovers is always trying to figure out where everyone is gonna sleep. Obviously, the host is just gonna sleep in their bed. But for everyone else, it's like the Hunger Games, trying to figure out what comfortable options are even left. Newsflash, there are none. So you're stuck sleeping on the floor right next to your other friends. But this is where I'm about to describe the next type of person at a sleepover that you want to stay far, far away from. The one that you just cannot sleep to. It could be for a variety of reasons. Sometimes the issue is snoring, and not background noise snoring. Not the kind you can sleep through if you're tired enough. I mean the kind where you put a pillow over your head and it's still fully audible on the other side. Sometimes it is sleep talking, which I tend to do, and I still remember the night my friends found out I sleep talk because I was in deep sleep one night and out of nowhere I get waken up feeling like I'm drowning because a bucket of water just got splashed on my face. So I asked my friends what the heck that was for and they tell me they thought I was possessed. I was convinced they must have just been pulling a prank on me and that was their excuse. But then they showed me a recording of myself and I'm not gonna lie, it kind of did look like I was possessed. I'm literally lying there with my eyes closed like this. It sounded like I was about to cast a spell on everyone in that house. Now, when they showed me that video, I understood why they felt the need to wake me up. But what I didn't understand is why they had to do it with a huge bucket of water. I'm a light sleeper. A simple nudge on my shoulder would have gotten me up. But no, they felt the only solution was to splash a gallon of water on my face. But let me tell you about the absolute worst person I've ever been to a sleepover with. Like, it's literally not even close. And I don't know if you could actually call this a sleepover because the situation I'm gonna tell you happened at a hotel. So there I was with my good friend staying the night at a hotel because we were traveling in Europe together. Now to give some context, we just had the longest day of our life. We missed our train that was supposed to take us to a different country and it was just super frustrating. So just imagine how much more annoyed we got when we opened the door to our hotel room and see that there was only one bed. Not even a king size either. There was literally no chance this bed could fit two people. Both of us were exhausted from the long day we just had, so neither of us were going to volunteer to sleep on the floor. So what did we do? We shared the bed. I know, I said it wasn't possible, but we made it work. We put two pillows in between us to set a boundary saying, this side is yours and this side is mine. And we both understood the agreement. But what this friend forgot to tell me was that when he falls asleep, he becomes a WWE superstar. If you have absolutely no idea what I mean by that, I'm basically saying he does not sleep still. He's constantly moving around. And sure, this may be a little annoying, but it's nothing I couldn't deal with, right? Well, it was fine until he started throwing elbows and kicking in his sleep. I'm literally there 2 inches away from him because that was how big the bed was. And out of nowhere, wham! I get an elbow to the nose. So I sit up and I'm like,
What the heck was that for?
But he's still completely asleep. I realized he didn't do it on purpose, so I was like,
Okay, he didn't mean it. Let's just go back to bed. Don't do anything you'll regret right now, Tyler.
but before I could even fall asleep again, I get kicked in my privates by him. Now, I don't care how accidental this was or how good he was sleeping. If someone kicks me in my family jewels, I'm gonna wake them up, because now you're hurting me and my future kids if I can ever find a wife. So I aggressively shove him, and since the bed was the width of a toothpick, he falls off it. That wakes him up, and he says,
What was that for?
and then he tries actually hitting me on purpose. I was so mad that I ended up going down to the front desk and just buying myself a separate hotel room for the rest of the night. By the time morning came, I had gotten maybe 30 minutes of real sleep. So if there's one thing this video should have taught you, it's to be very careful with who you invite to your sleepovers.